So, everybody, I want to say welcome to the hot seat today. My name is Jason Wolver. I'm the directing pastor here at Crossroads United Methodist Church in Washington, Illinois. And this is the edition you've all been waiting for. So, sitting with me today, participating, we have...
My name is Tim. I'm your Contemporary Worship Arts Director.
We have...
Mike Garnett.
And we have the one and only...
Rich Brown.
Rich Brown. And the reason Rich Brown can be here with us today is because he's just entered into a new season of his life.
Yep.
Tell us what's going on in your life, Rich.
I just recently retired, although I'm still doing some part-time work for my company. But as of January 28th, I'm a free man.
Yeah. I love it. I love
That
it.
didn't take too long.
No.
Yeah, that's so great. So Rich is someone that's been a leader at this church for many years, right?
20 plus, yeah.
You've done a lot of different jobs and this kind of a thing, and you've
Yeah.
taken time off, and then we've asked you to come and serve again and different things. So
And for some reason, I say yes.
yeah, and so and you're currently serving as the chair of the Parish Relations Committee.
Correct.
Yeah, and tell everybody what that means.
So Pastor Parish is, to me, the liaison between the congregation and the pastors. I think it's, to me, very important. I feel like we need to protect our pastors and pray for our pastors and watch over them. But also, there may come a time that we need to hold our pastors accountable for things, too. And we really, as long as I've been here, never really had anything come up like that, thankfully. But
Yeah,
I think that's part also of what we do.
and then there's the annual church assessment.
Yeah,
that
stuff
you
we have to do for the conference.
And then the pastor assessment based on whatever criteria the conference is asking you to use at a given year. And then when a pastor gets moved, then we did a lot of work last year.
Yes, we did. And it turned out well. I mean, we were all sorry to see Sarah go, but we're very excited about Megan being here and all that she's brought to the table too. So
Yeah. And so then we had to do a deeper level of assessment of the church and the needs of the church and keep refining the associate pastor role so that they could get us the best possible fit.
right.
Yeah. All right. So what we like to do, Rich, here is, and so you're also, wait just a second. You also, what are other things that you're involved in right now?
I'm on safeties and security. Really, that's about Vision team, ad council also because of the chair of Pastor Parish. So that's automatic.
In Alpha?
Alpha, yep. I'm pretty excited about that. We just started my second go around with it. I did it initially way back when Ken Dawson was chairing it, and the first time we did it, which it's been I can't even tell you how long ago it's been, but it's been a while ago. I've noticed new videos since that initial.
Yeah.
A lot before it was just mostly just Nikki talking most of the time. Now
the lectures.
Got, the other, I don't know who the other two people are.
They're younger and hipper.
Younger and more hip.
Yeah.
So, which reminds me of the last one I helped with. I was pretty sure I was the oldest guy in the room, which was a little disconcerting. That's life. So.
At least they let you be in the room.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. So, and you're also in a small group. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that you've met with for a long time.
Long time, yeah. Actually, how that started was we all helped with youth group when Trevor was the guy, and we helped serve meals and all that kind of stuff. And as our kids kind of moved out, we decided it was time for other people to take over, but we still missed that connection on Wednesday night, so we started a Wednesday night small group. So
yeah,
it's been really good.
That's awesome. And then you've just started coming to my midweek, first and third Wednesdays,
right?
Men's Bible study.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that so far too.
We kind of tricked Rich though today.
Yeah,
for those that are listening, we had Bible study today, and we're going through this new lighting upgrade, and all the pallets of equipment came, and so we broke from Bible study to unload like 4,000 to 5,000 pounds worth of lighting equipment. So
didn't know I was going to have to do manual labor.
I
think Rich didn't know he was
smart.
in for like exercise too.
Yeah, but I'm done for the day. So.
Yeah, I know, right? We got a lot. And so, Rich, have you had a chance to listen to Mike's podcast?
I have not.
Okay, we had him in a couple of weeks ago, so he's a fresh veteran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still recovering.
He's still warm from the hot seat.
No, I did catch Mallory's, which I thought was really good. Really, just to know the deeper part of that story and the way that she saw God move and all of that. It was just, it was pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. You know, I feel a little intimidated actually because some of the stories like Bob Anderson and Doug Weston and some of the people that it's like, wow, you know, not sure I have a story that dramatic to tell.
Well, we always tell people, you can always just make something up.
Okay.
No.
give me a few seconds.
No, you know, I mean, literally, we all know this is a format where it's about sensationalism. So we assume that we just tell people about 50% of what you hear on this podcast actually happened.
That's reassuring.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No. See, the thing, what we try to do in this podcast is, you know, to me, you know, I always think about it, like following Jesus is about, you know, Eugene Peterson, the translator of the Message version of the Bible. He called it a long obedience in the same direction, right? And so a lot of people start out in life going to church, that kind of a thing, but they don't stay on the path, right? Jesus says it's a narrow path, it's a hard path, and you know most people aren't on it. And then some people, like Mike's story, you know, really started later. He got on the path, but then he's on the path now, and he stayed on it, right? And so anybody who's walking with Jesus in the present, I want to know what the way you're living out your faith now, between the time you were born and how you're living out your faith now, what were the key movements along the way? What was your faith journey like that resulted in Rich Brown, recently retired, having served faithfully in the church known as Crossroads for the last, you know, how many years?
20 plus,
20 years, yeah. So anyway, I just think people need to not just hear crazy Holy Spirit stories, you know. They need to hear like, so how do you do it? How do you follow Jesus? And I think that's what most people, you know, it's just regular people, but they struggle with just staying on the path and being faithful. So I think as we learn from one another that way. So
yeah. So I was a Methodist as a kid, went to church for a while. Parents got divorced. That kind of knocked that off the train, I guess, a little bit. Pat grew up as a Catholic, but also not all the time. You know, they went for a while. And so when we first got married, we didn't feel it was important, I guess, a best way of saying it. But then as your kids come along, and I do have one person a very special person in our life, and I know you know her son Nate is Mary Westerfield, who I know that she prayed us back to church.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and know that Mary prayed us back to church and just fervently prayed for us. She babysat both of our boys at one point, and just one of those people that has strong faith, still has strong faith, and I just know in my heart that she's the one that prayed us back to church. So anyway, we actually got invited to another church in town and on Easter and went and thought, you know, people were nice and went well. And so we stayed there I just started coming regularly after that. And we're there for quite a while. And then some really good pastors there. But then we were struggling with some things and had a pastor change that we just didn't click with. And Ryan, our oldest, was active in youth group at what was then First United Methodist Church, and I already knew some people there. And eventually, I told you before, we went for a while down to Mark Jordan, you know, at First Church downtown when he was down there doing a more contemporary service, and they had good music, and we enjoyed that. But ended up here at Crossroads, at like I said, First United Methodist at the time, and I'm pretty sure that we were.
Is that down when it was at the Red Brick? Building,
and I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we were the last family to join at the Elm Street location before we came out here. In fact, we would come out, Pat and I sometimes, and when it was just the framework of the all-purpose, what is now the all-purpose room, we'd come and walk and pray and you know, just kind of trying to.
Outside or inside?
It was just framework. There was nothing. It was some concrete and framework, and just asking God, you know, what do we do? Is this where we need to be? And that all just worked out, and God. One of the times we were out here, Paul Prater was out here doing the same thing, praying over, walking and praying over the location, and just some conversations we had with him kind of made us decide to make the switch, and it was definitely the right thing to do.
Well, that's an interesting time to join a church. I mean, you're in one building, and then just like that, another building's going up, and you kind of like joining in the transition.
Right. Yeah, I do remember coming out after it was farther along, and a lot of volunteers built the stage before the stage we have now. So coming out, before, in fact, a couple of times we came out and it was snowing, and a couple of people got stuck in the lane because it was so long. And but I remember that vividly. But so that's how we got here. But I really think, for me personally, the largest step in my faith was walk to Emmaus, my first Emmaus weekend. And while we did that while we were still at the other church in town, our pastor then, Pastor Bob Wood, was very instrumental in starting Walk to Emmaus. He had friends that we were involved in Curcio at the time, and he said, we need something for Methodists similar to this. It's very much based on Curcio. Although the Peoria Curcio is not as rigid. Some of them you have to be Catholic to take part in a Curcio, but Peoria Curcio was not like that. Anybody could come. So anyway, that really, that probably is, I guess, when I would say I gave my life to Christ on Saturday night at an Emmaus weekend. And
really?
Drastic change in my faith.
So was that before you started attending Crossroads?
Yes.
Okay.
A little while.
So Bob Wood was the pastor at the other church?
Yep.
The one that you liked, the one that you gelled with?
Right. And then he retired and left, and the next pastor was a good guy, but just
you see, guys, we really can kill a church. Pastors really can kill a church.
Well, the telling thing, because we were active, but so we went in and we were fair. We wanted to talk to the pastor and not stop coming. We wanted to tell him what was going on, and so he offered to pray for us as we left, and he said, I remember him saying, "Lord, bless Pat or Rich and Pam," instead of Pat. So it was like, yeah, okay. You can tell this is not really a connection.
Oh, wow.
But that's really the only time we're not church shoppers. We were loyal.
Yeah,
and
it's one thing.
Yeah.
So really, in your adult life, you've only ever been to those two churches, active, except for when Mark Jordan was down.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know, Mark Jordan was down at Peoria first, and he helped start the campus that was across the street at the 700 West Main Building. Okay. So it's kind of like what 309 was here. Yep. It was like they planted a new church there, right? And so, but it was attached, and so.
Yeah, and at that time was the only contemporary service that they had down there was what Mark was doing. Yeah. It was relaxed, and we enjoyed it, but it was just hard to be part of a church in downtown Peoria when you live out in Washington and know everybody.
The other side of the river.
Right. And like I said, our oldest, Ryan, was really active here in the youth group.
How old was he then?
Probably freshman in high school.
Okay.
In that area, yeah.
Yeah. So then you went on your walk to Amaze. What year would that have been?
I think it was 98.
And where was that?
So that was held at the First Church downtown.
It was held at the church in Peoria.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we slept on mattresses on the floor, and they had showers in one of the other buildings that we could use. And
wow. So when was that in 98?
It was in the spring, so probably March, I think, March or April.
I went on my walk to Emmaus in the fall of 98.
Did you?
Yeah.
Where was that? In Springfield?
No, it was in, I was in Texas, and so it was in Kerrville, Texas.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was cool.
Pat's uncle lives in Kerrville.
Really?
We're outside of town, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so they have this big retreat center there. I'm not sure. Those retreat centers get very expensive to maintain. So I'm not sure. Mount Wesley it was called. But anyway, it was good. So yeah, that was kind of like the height of the Amaze movement, really, I think. The late 90s there. And
I was Illinois Heartland Walk number 1, and Pat was
number 1.
2. Yeah, so
wow.
That was after they kind of moved it from Springfield up to Peoria to try to reach more people.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
And Pat and I both have, we've done talks and
Yeah.
been lay directors for the weekend. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
very
That's cool.
involved. We're not as involved as much anymore, but of course they haven't had anything for
Couple
a couple of years yet. But
Yeah.
I think they're coming up in April or
Yeah,
May.
I think this fall they were looking at trying to do
Really?
it.
And so, yeah, and Tim,
I know I've
Didn't you say
agreed to help
Amaze
with
was-
music. So if there is one that turns out,
didn't you say Amaze was really instrumental in your?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Ray's, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Well, I know the year that Ray went, it was a huge Crossroads like core team and everything. And I think that really helped
Right.
at least people from this church to really get involved because they kind of knew, you knew somebody that was kind of,
Right.
in there.
Yeah.
And I was on the team when you went through,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was quite a few people from Crossroads.
Did you guys
on that.
sleep on mats on the floor?
We did not. We actually had beds. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point-
Back in the 90s, people were just tougher. Yeah, we'll take a day off work and go sleep on the floor at First Church downtown.
Yeah.
Love to.
Listen to the sirens all night and all that.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that.
No, when Tim did, it was at the Curcio Center at that time. So
Oh, that Catholic Retreat Center downtown?
yeah,
Oh, that's really nice.
it is nice. I mean, it's better
is
than
nice.
sleeping on mattresses.
I think that's
on
one of the
floor.
first questions you get when you ask somebody to go. It's like, well, what are the sleeping arrangements?
Yeah.
Well, what,
And then when we had the men's retreats, we're getting totally off topic, but when we had those men's retreats here, when I got here, I know like the first year we put everybody in bunks, and the snoring was just so insane. I mean, it's like people were so red eyed the next day, except the snoring people. They were well
Sure.
rested, and everyone else was like,
They're
you know.
the first ones to sleep. So
Yeah. So no, you haven't done Walk to Amaze, have you?
I have not.
You might
So
enjoy it.
I've talked to Tim about it quite a bit.
That's cool.
It's on my list.
Cool.
I told him it's kind of like Alpha, but it's
Yeah.
condensed.
Yeah.
And there's some few other extra things.
It's
But
a good
very
tool.
Similar to Alpha.
It's a good tool.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then the Walk to Emmaus, okay. So then what have been some of the highlights of your spiritual life besides Emmaus?
One thing that I remember when we were still at the other church in town, we had a Hispanic pastor come up and speak, and almost a little revival. And I wish I could remember his name because you probably would know him. He was from Southern Illinois, Marion somebody. But anyway, it was really good and really enjoyed it. And he gave kind of not an altar call, but a call for people to come forward that wanted to do more, wanted to be more involved. And I remember as he prayed over us, he said it more than once, to be able to change your life for Christ, even if it's just one. And that really hit with both of us was, yeah, okay. Even if it's just one, if we make an impact for Christ in somebody's life, even if it's just one person, it's going to make a difference. And so that was, I remember that as a highlight.
So that was him praying over you.
Right.
Wow.
Over Pat and I both, yeah.
So this is a very fascinating topic, and I think that I'm just beginning to understand the power of this, and this is like one of the reasons that we offer an opportunity for people to receive prayer after each service. It's the power of people praying over you, right? People praying for you, and we would call it, when God speaks through the words of another person, that's prophecy, right? So the Holy Spirit speaks something, but rather than being a word that just flows off you, because I'm sure he said many other things, right? The words, they stick to your bones because they're from the Holy Spirit, and you remember them, right? And so, yeah, man, and just a little plug. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're offering more opportunities for people to receive prayer, and our Holy Spirit night that, it won't have happened. It'll have already happened by the time we're doing this, but we're going to do that on Sunday, the Sunday evening after we're recording this. But yeah, that's so powerful. So how would you say those words shaped you?
I think it just gave us purpose, to even when there were things going on in the church that you struggle with or don't agree with or whatever, it's still that reminder that, yeah, you're going to, somewhere along the way, you're going to have an impact on someone for Christ. And I know, sometimes it comes up in Emmaus, how that you may plant the seed, somebody else waters it. It isn't just always just that one event, but you're part of that chain for people to come to know Christ more. So
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, I remember a lot of times I've done talks stuff at Emmaus, and you can feel that as you go in, you go from being uptight and nervous to just being relaxed, and the talk is over in what seems to you in seconds, because it's been the Holy Spirit, working through you. So those times, and being prayed for, if you've ever been on a team, you get prayed for before you go in and give a talk or anything, and they anoint the team ahead of time. So those are always special moments. And Pat and I both have been active in Emmaus and Chrysalis, so we've done that several times. So but it's been, and I think I really enjoyed Chrysalis just because you're having that impact of that just one on young people.
Yeah. So Chrysalis is the Emmaus weekend retreat for teenagers.
Right.
Yeah.
High school.
Yeah. So I had wanted my kids, because Janice, her whole family was active in Chrysalis and Emmaus when she was growing up, and her family was on teams. I was wanting my kids to go on one, but I know when I first got here, you had been active, and you had said, yeah, really, we stopped having walks. I mean, Chrysalis weekends, because there was a lack of participation. It does kind of seem like things ebb and flow like that in the Peoria area. So anyway, some friends of ours in Southern Illinois that are pastors announced that they were doing a Chrysalis retreat. And so we signed our kids up, and we took them down there for 3 days in Southern Illinois. And boy, it was a great reminder. Southern Illinois is like its own place, man. That was deep south, man. That was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally, it was at a retreat center at this church. Like, what was it nearby? Nothing. It was in the middle of cornfields at this church with some, like dorms and a cafeteria and like a place for camp. So, but it was cool. They had a good weekend.
Yeah, I've gotten, and it's kind of cool the way God brings people back in and out of your life sometimes. But Kurt Franklin was one of the youth, that was active in it when I was active in it. Andy Yednak also.
Yeah.
Great guy. Think a lot of Andy.
Yeah.
I know Randy too, but kind of kept more in touch with Andy. The people that Opperlees out of Pontiac. Jake and
Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course Ron and
Vicky,
just super people.
Great people.
So that connection, Krista Brockman at the time is now Price. That's down at
East Peoria.
I got to know her pretty well. So
it's awesome.
And I like the exposure of not being able to get out of your own church and even the Methodist church and be exposed to other Baptists and Christian church and Lutherans and so.
So I know
I think that's one reason why, because my Emmaus reunion group, none of us really go to the same church, so it's kind of like when we get together, there is this sort of like, I don't know, it's just interesting, It just it piques interest. Well, what do you guys, what sermon series are you going through, or what's your Bible study going through? I mean, everybody's got like a different flavor, so it just kind of, it just brings something different to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I know anytime we talk so much about like one particular program or retreat, I don't want people's main takeaway to be like, well, yeah, the takeaway is you should go to that, right?
Right.
So, because really they're great tools, but God reaches people through Alpha Weekends, through, Horse Drop Sunday, through a small group, through worship. So, what would you say, what are the things that you took away from Emmaus that have continued to like shape your life? Was there certain practices that were reinforced there, certain ways of looking at things?
So one of the first things I did coming back from my weekend, I used to get up, have my shower, get coffee, sit down and watch headline news, which at that time was headline news, not all this other stuff that it is now. And you could, get what's going on in the world for a half an hour and sit down and watch. So when I came back, then I turned the TV off and started reading the Bible more and praying more in that morning time, and that has set my my morning time as being important to me, and prayer, which sometimes I struggle with, but I always enjoy reading the Bible, and we've talked about other books that I like to read or have read in the past, and
so you've been after that Emmaus retreat, what was that, almost 24 years ago, that you made a change to your morning habit. You replaced headline news with Bible reading. And
Right.
have you done that consistently the whole time?
Yeah,
Wow.
I really have. Yeah. I mean, like right now I'm just doing the Psalm reading. I'm thinking 5 or 6 times I've done the read the Bible in the year, which is challenging. Obviously, there's parts of the Old Testament that get a little rough to get through, but you get through it. I even actually one time you talked about Eugene Peterson. I did the Message Bible, in the year, which actually I found a little more interesting.
Yeah.
And also there's a chronological Bible that you can read in the year, so it isn't always just book by book. It's what happens when in a more of a chronological order. So. I've enjoyed doing that too.
That's cool. But it's been consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has. I feel that's really important. Sometimes should be more consistent with my exercise, but I just won't give up my morning, get up and have coffee and read or whatever.
Where was it that I think it was 1 Timothy chapter 6, or maybe it was chapter 4, where Paul says to Timothy, train yourself in godliness, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for both the present life and the life to come. And so, I really.
So that's a good excuse.
Well, no, it really is. I mean, you think it's like, eventually this body's going to wear out. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter how good of a shape you get in for a time. You can't maintain it forever. But whereas as spiritually, the vision is that we keep getting stronger and stronger. Paul says this outer body is wasting away, but our inner man is being renewed day by day, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you've got to, I think time and aging should force us to look at everything that we do through the lens of wisdom, right?
Right.
I mean, and like how much time really is it wise to put into to physical training, right? And neglect the more important aspect of your spiritual life, right? Mm-hmm. Now that they're both tied together, but your spirit, should grow stronger every day, and you whatever you put time into is going to grow, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, and it is, I guess, as age, sometimes it is hard to continue. What does Paul say that I run? With perseverance.
Yeah, the race marked out for us, right? Yeah.
There are times, and it does get kind of hard, or it feels like the same old. To me, I kind of compare it sometimes. That initial, even though we were going to church and I knew about Jesus, I feel like I came to know Jesus through that experience on an Emmaus weekend. But it's like being when you fall in love, that it's close, and you want I wanted to read everything and pray, and I was really good at it. But then as you continue to try to persevere, there are some times when you waver or lack interest sometimes that you do have to. And that's when, to me, I look to people ahead of us that have been and are still some, and some that have passed on have been what you would say pillars of the church that have continued to live that faith out.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of rough times.
Yeah.
And would you say it's also, because you got involved in Alpha again, and, when you go in that room, there's like that, someone else's excitement and energy mm-hmm. gets you fired up, right? Because you see that, it's like, I had that energy once, and right. It's like, I don't know, to me, it's like playing with the grandkids, right? They have all this energy, and all of a sudden I've got energy with them, but if they weren't there, I would probably not be that active. But you get around these, people that are coming new to faith, and they just kind of like get you all sparked up and jazzed up, mm-hmm. and I don't know. And
it's just a good kind of reminder, and helps you, motivate you.
Yeah. And, you think, because Alpha, you were talking about, Mike, how Alpha was really big for you, right? Really helpful for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And this is really my third time through it, the last 2 times as a helper with it. But when you meet with people like that, you learn something new every time.
Yeah.
So, I could take it 10 times. I'd still love it, I think, as much as the first time, just because of what you get from it.
Yeah.
But then, to think about what you're giving to other people. Sometimes I tend to minimize that. And it sounds like, it's kind of what we can do for each other, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's not unlike people who they're just addicted to coaching people in young athletics because it was meaningful to them as a kid, right? So they keep on coaching, right? They love to coach, right? They don't play, but they love to coach. They love to be in the environment, right? And I think a lot of people don't know that kind of ministry and self-giving environment is also available in the church, and you can pour yourself into helping other people. You can experience it and then help other people experience it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read something just recently, I think on one of my devotions, about how if you feel like sometimes maybe your faith is stagnating, maybe you need to be serving more. Maybe if you're not serving much, then you're not growing much. But the more you serve in whatever way, that's going to help you continue in that race, as Paul calls it.
Yeah. Well, what is it? I think it's Proverbs 11:25-26. It says, a generous person will prosper, and he who refreshes others will himself be refreshed. Right. And so seeing other people get it for the first time, right? Seeing lights come on, it's just, it refreshes you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they want more knowledge, like new knowledge they've never heard before from the Bible. It's like, and really, if that's not changing you to make you more like Christ, then what's the point of it, right? And so you think about it like what we really probably need more than more Bible knowledge is more service to others to help them embrace the Holy Spirit and Jesus for the first time. I'm talking an awful lot.
There's also a quote from a podcast I listened to recently from Mike Garnett, I think was the name, and he said I think it was like in the first minute of the podcast, and Mike said, "You can't grow." I'm gonna get the quote wrong, but like you have to push yourself in order to grow. You have to do something or be uncomfortable to grow. And I think that has a lot to do with the serving and stuff. Sometimes you got to jump out and serve in a way that you might not be comfortable with, but you're going to grow from it, and it's going to make you stronger.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't know if I made this analogy when I said that, but I'm a huge fan. When we turned in our I always forget the commitment cards.
Yeah.
A few years ago, there was a chart on the back, and there was the different percentages you could give up to 10%. And
no, you could give beyond it.
It was, well, right.
We need to upgrade the chart.
The message wasn't go from 2 to 10, right? The message was if you're at 2%, try going to 3%. And I feel like it's the same with our faith, right? We don't want to be stuck at 2%. And we may have trouble going to 10%, but just go to 3.
Yeah. That's right.
What I do see, though, you talked about the Bible. To me, it's so interesting that there are times when you go back and read a passage that you've read 20 times, but something will speak differently to you, at one point. That maybe that's where you are in your life, in your faith life, or whatever. That all of a sudden you read one and it's like something just jumps out at you.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask you about, because I know I was talking to somebody just a little bit ago that's reading through the Psalms, right now, as some of us are through the Bible app.
Right.
And she's like, what are we supposed to be getting out of this? I'm reading this and like, I don't get it. What am I supposed to be seeing, Yeah. So I was kind of sharing what that's like for me, but how do you engage with the Bible? I mean, obviously you have a process, whether you've thought about it or not, where you actually you can read through systematic chunks of it, and each day you get something that makes you keep doing it. So what does it feel like? How do you do it every day? What is it?
Well, I guess, I mentioned about reading the Bible in the year, and that maybe that's somewhat of a drawback to that sometimes is you're just checking your list. Okay, I got that day done, and you're not trying to drink it in as much as you could. So I prefer really just to read, when we did the New Testament in a year or something like that, where you do have a little more time to think about what you're reading. I really believe, and I know people struggle with, especially parts of the Old Testament, that Lamentations or some of the numbers and all that it's difficult to get through, but I still really believe that God put it in there for a reason. And so trying to find that reason, trying to look a little deeper, that motivates me. I used to enjoy listening to and reading Rob Bell before he kind of got into other
Joined
things.
the Church of Oprah?
Yeah, I guess. I wasn't going to say that, because he was very good at giving you context and which you do well, and talking about certain words, in the Greek or in the Hebrew, that gave it more depth. Sometimes the translations don't give you the full depth of what certain phrases or words mean. So I try to do that sometimes, and that's kind of where I got that started between him and N.T. Wright, just really finding depth and context and instead of just reading the words on the page.
So do you read every day mainly to learn or mainly to encounter God? I mean, there's different ways we can read the Bible. What
Right.
do you expect every day?
I think it's more to encounter God and to try to keep a focus, more so than I do learn sometimes. Sometimes I'm just reading it, but I think it is more of a keep a focus and encounter God more and see what he has for me. So
Yeah. Do you feel like every day that happens? Do you get
No.
something every day?
yeah, I mean, I think it happens a lot, but it doesn't happen every day. Some days you just go through it and can't wait to get to my next cup of coffee. It's that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if someone was just going to start reading the Bible every day, or they wanted to, what guidance would you give them as far as what to read and how to read it and what to expect?
I think any kind of Bible, like a life application, something like that gives you some of that context. To
Life
begin
application
with.
study Bible.
Yeah. So that the first time I did it, and I started in the Gospels, and so I didn't understand that these were 4 different stories.
Yeah.
Or 4. So I read the loaves and fish, and then I read it again, and so I was like, wait a minute, I've already read this. So
What?
Yeah, what's going on here? And then you get to John and his views, or not his views are different, but his kind of viewpoint, the way he brings things are a little different. So I really think something like that is important to kind of get a little background before, instead of just jump right in, and don't jump right into Revelation or something like that first. But yeah, I would always recommend start with the Gospels. So,
yeah. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And of course, Genesis. I'm enjoying the Genesis study that we're doing.
Yeah. For
on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us maybe focus more of the whole church at one point on Genesis,
On
just
Genesis.
to help
yeah.
on that
Yeah.
that history and all the
Yeah.
important stuff in there.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. So, what questions do you guys have for Rich? As you come to mind, go ahead.
No, just
Mike, I was going to say, as someone who's been in this church the past 6 years, and you've seen Rich and you've seen other people, what?
So I'll ask Rich, because I think we maybe have similar personalities a little bit, similar viewpoints on how our faith is. You seem very calm, very consistent. I know that's maybe not always the way it is, but is that something that's easy for you to kind of keep that presence? Or
Great question.
That is a great question. So they had a little dinner for me when I retired. And because of COVID, just employees only, but Pat was able to come, but the rest of them. But probably 3 to 4 people said that when they, were
roasting you.
yeah, they offered to, say whatever, and they said that, you're a calming presence, it seems like, and I know that's because of my faith. It's not because I'm, I've always tried to live my faith at work, but not hit people over the head with it, but, live it. And when you're in sales, sometimes it's a little more difficult to do that. It's dog eat dog world out there sometimes.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting that you say that, and people have said that before, but yeah, I struggle with anxiety, so I'm not always that way. But I think probably more so at church. Church is home to me, and it's my family that are here. So that's probably where I feel the most calm, the most relaxed is here. I joke about it, but I have been diagnosed ADD.
Truly?
Truly, yeah,
Okay.
truly, and I'm careful when I joke about it because I know it's, it's an issue for people.
Yeah.
More so for me, I tried a few medicines and just didn't like the way they made me feel. And, but it does kind of trigger that anxiety sometimes because your mind is always from here to there. And, so I don't always feel that calm, but like I said, this place probably brings me more calm than anything. When Tom was here, and it was just Tom before we had, before Casey came, or we had Bob DeBold or even Bob
the associate,
Lowry, I was the lay leader. So I would get up and read scripture or whatever. I was on the stage fairly often.
Yeah.
And that came easy to me. I mean, I was able to do that. Now I don't do it as often. And it's, when you do it now and then, it feels a little bit more awkward. I mean, I can do it, or even something like this. You're not as, you do it, every week or whatever, and you're used to it. But yeah, so that I do appreciate that you say that, and I do feel it sometimes, but
yeah,
not always.
So that's a good question. So how would you feel like Christ has changed you? Think of who you were before, maybe before you and Pat were married, or when you were first married, but before you had come back to the church, experienced Christ. How has he changed you?
Probably the biggest thing, and especially in marriage, I think we are naturally pretty self-serving and selfish people,
You and Pat?
No.
I'm joking.
Thanks, buddy. No, just...
I'm joking.
You're my pastor.
I'm joking.
But that has changed, and we've worked to change that, to put others first, even within marriage. That to me come from being a Christian and trying to do the right thing and put other people first. So that's, to me, is one of the biggest things. And also just trying to treat everybody with respect and dignity, no matter what. All the things that are going on in our denomination, it's sometimes hard to focus on that, but I still think it's important. So
yeah,
that's, to me, one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
And use Christ as that example.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so then what would the, Rich Brown pre-Christ, if I had met Rich Brown like back in the 80s, what would I have met?
In high school, and especially out of high school, I went to ICC, didn't go on to a 4-year school or anything, wanted to make money, and because my parents divorced, they didn't have a lot of money to send me to college, and honestly, it was probably not ready to go. So I was more of a partier, drugs somewhat, especially marijuana, and just, which I find is so ironic now that it's legal and you can go across the river and buy it. It just seems strange to me still, but
you don't even have to cross the river.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, really, East Peoria has one, doesn't it? Don't they have a dispensary?
But
yeah,
and I guess there's great uses for it, medicinally, and
yeah.
It's funny how our attitudes have changed about it. But anyway,
that's why you're so healthy now, because you took so much medicine early on, right?
Yeah. We'll go with that. But yeah, it was a partier, and like to go out to the bars for a while. I went through that phase like people do, and then God brought Pat into my life, and it was. I just know that, and that I am totally in. I didn't always know it, and didn't maybe not know it at first right away, but I absolutely know now that he put us together.
How did you meet?
Pat hates it when I tell people we met in a bar. I was actually the bartender at what is now Bernardi's down there in Sunnyland.
Oh, okay.
But that time it was Max, and a friend of hers came in fairly regular and told her, "Hey, you need to come to Max and see the cute bartender." And so I thought she was pretty. She had at that time real long brown hair, and we started dating and never really looked back. So.
How old were you at the time?
I was probably 22. We got married, we were both 23, so yeah, 21, 22.
Okay, and then when did you start going back to church?
Ryan was 12 or 13, so several years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in between. And actually, yeah, Josh was not even a year old the first time we went to the other church in town.
So there's a big age gap between them.
9 years, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So kind of have your and Pat's journeys been kind of parallel in terms of Christ?
They have, and that's in different ways, but I'm very thankful for that we've grown in our faiths together more, sometimes a little different, but and she excels at different things than I do. I'm, like I said, I'm comfortable. I'm okay to go up and stand up in front of the congregation, do something. Her not so. I mean, she could do it, but it's not her thing. But she loves. She's in now with the 3 or 4 year olds. And just loves that. And I'm personally, I just don't have that patience to do that kind of stuff. So
we like the calm, cool-headed Rich that's doing security.
Yeah.
We don't put it with the 3 or 4 year olds.
Rich, you always get the wonderful task of like communicating just very not technical things to the congregation, but things that like there's no really humor involved. There's no like making it fun and interesting. It's like facts and and like almost like industrial type documents or something. It's like there's no way to communicate this in any like entertaining enjoyment way for people to really soak it in. It's just like
Gee, I thought that was Mike McKell, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have definitely grown together. And I remember, keep going back to Emmaus, but I did mine first, and then Pat did hers the weekend after, like the model is. And I remember coming home, and she said, "Well, how was it? Was it life changing?" And I said, "Yes." And she had this basically the same experience for her. It was life changing. So, and ever since then, I just feel like we've grown together in our faith.
That's awesome. How long have you been
struggled
married?
together in our faith too.
How long have you been married?
And coming up October would be 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Ray and I did the walk to Emmaus several years apart. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because I can remember coming off of that weekend and, how was the weekend,
right.
And it just like you said, like it's hard to describe. Right.
Right.
And she just didn't really like get it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years later, she goes on the walk and all the things that like I was sort of high on from that weekend, she's telling me, and she's like, I get it now. Like it all makes like it just the sky opened up and it just made sense. And it was like, then we could have that to share,
Right.
But going weekend to weekend,
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that you came to Jesus through our church?
I came to Jesus before our church.
Before our church?
Yeah.
Okay.
And really on that Emmaus weekend.
Oh, but still through the Methodist church that you were part of then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But
No, I was just thinking because you guys both kind of came back to Christ or to Christ through our church, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Pretty cool. I mean, just to pause for a minute.
So a question I have for Rich is, I know on the Emmaus walk, and we keep coming back to the Emmaus walk, but they tell you, we're not wanting you to sort of join the Emmaus as a church community. We want you to go back into your church and start to serve and start to. So maybe my question is how it was your involvement in the church changed after the Emmaus walk? Like what did maybe you jump into that you hadn't jumped into before?
Yeah, it definitely changed for both of us. Because I was before kind of content to sit in the back row, and I mean, it was there. We were loyal goers, but not all that active, and definitely felt the call and through some things that are said on that weekend to get more active. And at that point, we've done youth group. We started with, did some with Ryan, but more so with Josh, who's younger, a younger son. Just because of timing, but we started when he was 6th grade, and did all the way through his high school years. And I think about doing junior high is just a whole different thing than working with high school kids, and I don't mean to say that in a bad way, but yeah, they more energy and just a lot of things going on there in junior high kids. So, but we got through it and we enjoyed it. And so yeah, we definitely
got through it.
Yeah, we definitely recalled and felt that call to get more involved in church and more. We thought more about our giving at that point too. So just a lot of things that changed through that.
And then what sort of pushed you into moving more into like the leadership roles? Like some of the more,
God. I struggle with that sometimes, but people look to me, and I don't know always why, but it's like I just feel like God says, okay, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, and usually in some kind of leadership role, and sometimes I don't always relish it. And I will always point out, while I feel like I'm a pretty decent leader, I'm horrible at like keeping notes or sending out, I'm just terrible at that kind of stuff. So I, like right now, Pastor Parish, Don is always very helpful, and Lori, and Mallory is very good. She does our notes, acts as a
she was on a couple weeks ago,
and she does great at it. So I'm blessed to have her on it. But anyway, I just feel like, and I try not to puff myself up, but it just feels like people look to me sometimes for leadership, and I don't always know why.
So a follow-up question to that would be, is it easy for you to say somebody asks you, hey, Rich, can you help with this? Are you one to say yes right away, or do you take a while to process it and ask God, is this where you see me moving towards, or right. Like how do you what's your process for sort of deciding where you're being led?
So that's a good question also, and I think it's both. I mean, there's sometimes it's easy stuff, and I just say, okay. Some stuff I do try to pray about it or whatever, and ask God for some guidance, and then sometimes I pray, God, help me find a good excuse here so I don't have to do this. So, but He doesn't usually do that. He just says, go ahead and do it. So, but depends on what it is. I mean, like Pastor Parish to me is a very important committee and an important position. So I do want to try to pray about that and seek some guidance on those kind of things.
That would really be worth pondering, because I know I've asked, I've asked you to serve on various things, and I think you've told me no before. I'm trying to think. Yeah,
I have learned that discernment sometimes.
Yeah. Like I can't do that right now. But I mean, like, what would it be? What do you think? What is it about Rich? I mean, I'm trying to think, but you guys can think too. Make us look at him as a leader.
I think there's Rich. Well, he's tall. He's taller than me. I'm short. So anybody taller than me, you have this natural like, oh, he's a leader.
How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4".
But I think that there is this genuine. Like the music world, you call it like to be a good hang. So like Rich is a good somebody to be around. Like Mike Arnett, it's great to be around. So like when you think if you're going to spend time in a meeting with somebody, you want it to be somebody that like, is calm in everything, and that you look up to, but also just, like is pleasant to be around, and that's, I think that makes, doing sort of like those tasks of clerical or whatever you want to call it, like like it makes it more enjoyable because like you're just happy to be around the people.
What would you say?
Yeah, I'm thinking his presence, the way he carries himself. Obviously more going on, than you show.
Yes.
Yeah,
because of the ADD.
Yeah, there's more that he might not look like much, but
that's not quite what I meant.
I know.
But yeah, it's you look like you've got it figured out,
Sweet. Yeah. Except for the gray hair.
What's Riley's line? Fake it till you make it or something.
Yeah.
But
one thing that I probably should apologize to people because of the ADD, I will engage in conversation. I love part of what I like about safety and security is seeing all the people, on a Sunday morning. And I usually try to do first service and then sit in on second service. So I get to see a lot of people, but I'm terrible about, you get about 5 minutes and then my mind is, going somewhere else, or I'll see somebody over here that I want to talk to, and I kind of disengage, and I feel bad about that sometimes. That's
when someone's called me on the radio. Hold on.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I like him as a committee chair, though, because he begins with the end of the meeting in mind, right? He doesn't want it to go on very long. But so I think to me, there's a few things, as I'm just processing. One, you model consistency, right? I mean, you're here at church, right? And so we interact, you interact with the leaders, the staff on a regular basis. You're dialed in. So that's just, you came back in the pandemic with, you like to be here, right? And so that means you're in the flow. You're also, I think another thing is you talk to me about, I'm just thinking about my own thing, about your devotional life, which to me is like, as a church, we do have business aspects of it that are business, but like if you only see it as a business, you're going to run the church into the ground, right? We're in like the business of the unseen, right? And so like, I don't need just people that are great at running a business, or managing people. I need people who see things through the lens of the world of the Bible, right? And so like, I know that you're checking in with God every day and you're talking to me about stuff that's, spiritual. You're thinking about stuff. And I think that you've also got, you don't, I think, and this is going to sound bad, because people do like to be leaders, they like to aspire to it, but it's also the fact that you're not constantly asking you don't ask to be a leader, right? So you're there, you've got lots of experience, but you don't really, if somebody wants power too bad, it's uncomfortable, right? And so you want people who are willing to serve, but don't need to be in charge.
That's what I was going to say. He leads in a way that presents itself as serving.
Yeah. 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 And the fact that you're still involved in I think the best church administrative leaders are those who are also heavily invested in the ministry of the church, right? Administration alone, you've got to be invested where the spiritual work is going on, like serving in the spiritual life of the church. So those are some of the things that I see. Plus, I'm more excitable. You're more calm. I like that. We need calm people who can handle tough situations and not freak out when I'm freaking out.
I do want to say though, don't put me on a pedestal, please, because I struggle like everybody else does with certain things.
No, I don't think we're doing that. I think it's just like, yeah, well, it's true. Like, why do I ask Rich to be a leader? Well, because you can talk to him anytime. He's there. He values the church. He's reading his Bible every day. He's gentle. He's calm.
And the good thing about Rich too, and this is like, not to like I said, let's pump Rich up for an hour, but being like you said, safety and security, you're interacting with lots of people in our congregation on a weekly basis. So when you go into a meeting and you're representing these people, like who they are. Yeah. You're not just sort of sitting in the corner and going, well, there's X amount of people in the church and I'll speak for them. It's like, no, you see them every week and you have those little conversations with them that you can bring that into a meeting and say, well, I'm getting the feel that the church is feeling this way, because
it's also the way I think you've brought up concerns, you have a way of bringing them up. Like, it's not like a nagging, complaining. It's like, hey, I had a question for you. I've wondered, have we ever thought about doing it this way? So it's like, oh, I can easily engage in this conversation and see what he's thinking about without like, it's not a complaint. It's a, hey, What's going on here? Have we thought about this? So, I mean, those are good things that, again, makes one easy to be around, right? And so,
yeah, I will say I am one of those people that is, can't we all just get along? To me, that's really that I would rather there be less stress and confrontation.
But you have some very clear spiritual convictions as well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not get along at any cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you see, as you're working part-time, your job, what do you feel like God has planned for you in the next 10 years?
That's a good question. Our grandkids are in Minneapolis, and so we'll travel more, going back and forth. But I think it's important. We tried to guide our kids when they were younger and be involved in the church and give them a basis for their faith. That whether they stick with it or not, I think that's still there, and we'll probably get back to it eventually. And I think trying to find that way to do the same thing for the grandkids is really important too, to give that basis of faith. And the two youngest now are going to a Lutheran daycare.
Oh, cool.
So they're getting that from that as well. So they know about Jesus. And so to me, that's important to be able to do that. And just, Joe Russell's one of my best friends, and we talk a lot about our changing roles in the church and the people that we have that have gone ahead of us, that have modeled that for us. So I don't always feel like I need to be on this committee or that committee, but it can still be an example for other people
for the Mike Garnetts.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a lot of the people, Terry Hilligans, Ken Dawson, and even people ahead of that, Ron, I'm drawing a blank, that just lost his wife.
Folkerts.
He's one of those guys that I just admire him and the way he's carried on, and the way he took care of Dottie when she was really sick, and just those people. I want to be like those people.
Yeah.
Whether I'm involved every day with the everyday life of the church, or if I'm just show up every Sunday and somebody looks to me and says, "That's
Don Seaton."
Don Seaton.
Yeah.
A lot of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with, as you get older, you think that you're not able to offer the like that role that you used to do. But I think there's that power in being the inspiration.
Right.
I mean, all those names you've mentioned, are very inspirational people that help you stay on the right path, whether they're, not able to do the things they used to do, but they're still able to be that incredible inspiration.
Right.
I do think that's like, something I think about a lot, right? I mean, because when Megan showed up, it was this exact same age differential as when I got out of seminary and was serving with Dan Harry, right? He was like 45 or 46 and I was 26. And, when you're a young pastor, it's like just having you in the room and smile. It's like it just gives energy, right? And then you realize it's like, okay, I don't have that trick anymore, right? People don't just want me to be there because I'm young. So then what is my role now, right? I mean, you can't hold on to that. You've got to go with the season. But there is, that's why I love what you're doing with Alpha and other stuff. Just like, it's, as you get older, you do have so much to offer, but it's not in the same way, right? So how can we help raise up the next? I'm very conscious of that. I spend a lot more time like being available to younger pastors than I ever have before. It's like, how can we help the next generation? How can we be there for them and empower them and walk alongside them and coach them and, just support them and let them make mistakes. And
that I remember having that concern when it was going to be apparent that Megan was going to take Sarah's place, that I knew that was going to be more time for you training and bringing in, and I was concerned about your amount of time and effort that, would be devoted that with all the other responsibilities you have. But I remember you told me that you felt it was important at this point in your ministry that you're able to help bring people along. And I really admire that. I thought that was important.
Yeah.
And ease my concerns as far as a PPRC chair of, are we going to overload Jason, because we've overloaded pastors before, and I didn't want that to happen again. So
yeah, and it's like once you make that shift, it's like super fun, like helping other people learn the ropes and let them try things. It's actually, you sit there and watch, and like, well, that's fascinating. How they do something like, it's actually pretty fun. So anything else that you thought, I want to say this when I was coming to do my podcast?
The only other thing was, as I was thinking about it and my transition from being a non-churchgoer to, I just try to be a disciple of Christ. One of the things that, and I think of Tim when I think about this, was how important at that time contemporary Christian music was in my walk, because I felt like it took the nerdiness out of going to church, Not that I don't love the old hymns and stuff, but there were a lot of, we had David Crowder here at our church a long time ago, and Switchfoot, and a lot of those that really spoke to me, and I kind of connected with Ryan, our oldest, through some of that music too, and then also, through our faith. And that to me was a very important part of my walk at that time. I mean, it still is, but probably more so that it just helped bring me along, because I could agree with the things that they were saying, instead of, I'm a graduated high school in 1977, so I'm a rocker from the 70s, so some of that just went along with it. Delirious, we've talked about them and how good that worship music, but it was worship music with an edge, and so that was
you think it's got electric guitar, so that what he's singing about can't be all that bad, right? Because it's rocking, right?
Right.
So
right. Yep.
Who's your all-time favorite contemporary Christian artist?
That is a good question. Rich Mullins, to me, just very simple, but just the things that he sang about and the life that he lived.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah.
I remember when he died. It was by Peoria.
Yeah, up closer to LaSalle, Peru, but yeah.
Oh, really?
It was up on 39. But yeah, I love so simple faith, but the things that he talked about and sang about. So he's definitely one, but of course more mellow than some of the other. I still like Switchfoot. I don't listen to David Crowder as much, but I really liked his older stuff.
Yeah.
So those.
Have you seen the movie about Rich Mullins?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's good. He was he was not a smooth guy.
No.
He struggled.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I like that. It makes it authentic.
Yeah, and yeah, me too. I mean, that's what kind of connects me with him, I think, a little bit. There's a few people, artists or authors or whatever, that you connect with your faith, because like that, I don't consider my faith perfect, or it is a struggle sometimes, but you identify with those people.
Yeah.
One of the first books I read after I did my Emmaus weekend was the Ragamuffin Gospel. Brennan Manning, which I really identified with.
That is a great book, isn't it? Yeah.
And because it kind of helped me understand, okay, it's okay if you struggle, and it's okay if where you were before was pretty far from where you are now. And so, that's those kind of things have just helped me on my way too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. All right. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a blast. Mike Garnett, give us the closing word.
All right.
I love putting people on the spot.
Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you again for this opportunity to get together, learn a little bit more about Rich and what he's been through and what he's brought to our church. We just want to thank you for giving him to us, and thank you again for this medium that we can use just to get to know one another better, Lord. Just be with us throughout the day here as we go our separate ways. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.